What's going on, ladies and germs? Gotta tell you, man, I was excited to get this live cracking. This is definitely one of these topics, man, where I was like, yeah, you know, twice in Brazil, years in the DR. Can't wait to talk to you guys, and can't wait to talk to you guys about it in a different way. Before I do though, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up when you come in, especially the people on the replay. In other words, they're not on the live. I want to say, ladies and germs, welcome to the Richest Method podcast version of my channel that is about, information, talking live, chatting, reading your comments, doing Q&As, whatever might, happen to come to mind. But just like my walk-in talks that I do, and I'm going to expand on again, I want to kind of give you guys, just good information in general that I get sometimes. And also, as you travel, you see out here how other people are doing it. So that makes you say sometimes, like, man, like I could kind of get that information a little better. And that got me to thinking about today's topic, right? Dominican Republic or Brazil, which travel is for you? Now, how I came up with this is because, it's always frustrated me that over the years I've seen people ask a question and advice be given a certain way. And I was always like, man, why are you giving the advice that way? We're all different people. And that question usually is like either, traveling YouTubers or travelers are doing this country versus that country, right? They're like, yo, this country versus that. This as this versus that country. The other thing is people asking, like, yo, tell me if this country or this place is where I should go. And I'm always like, I don't know you. How can I tell you that? Another one is usually, and it kind of falls into the same thing, how expensive it is to do that vacation. I don't know your habits. I don't know if you're gonna be there a week, a month, a year, 2 days, how much you drink, how much you eat, where you gonna stay, how much that's gonna be. And by that, I don't mean the city. I mean even within a city, you're gonna have different hotels that got different prices, different Airbnbs that have different prices based on the size, how ghetto it is, how nice it is, the amenities, all these different things. But where you fly, where are you flying from? I don't know the price of your flight. You know what I mean? So that always got me saying, like, man, I would do it similar to a consultation. Like I would do it based on personality type of person. So that got me thinking, and I came up with your general personalities that I see when I go to different countries, which I think would fit better in which country. That's the way I would kind of do it. Why? I'm thinking of even let's say my family members, right? Got a couple of uncles, my brother included. I got my uncles, I got my brother. I got thinking like, okay, if I was to give my family members who are guys advice, knowing their different personality types, where would I say, hey man, for you, your age, the type who you are, whether it's a younger guy or older guy, which which country I just think they might tend to have a little bit more fun in, right? So this whole conversation is going to be about travel, not living, not expating. Maybe if you guys want that, you give me some comments. Maybe in the future, I'll do a I'll do maybe a live covering more if you're gonna retire to a place. But this is just strictly for which travel is for you out to the Dominican Republic or Brazil, right? And here's how I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna say like, all right, if you're the type of traveler, no matter what age, you're looking for more of like, I like, I want to go a place a week, 2 days, 3 days, 2 weeks, whatever, travel, right? Vacation, or just to check it out. And you say to yourself, I'm the type of guy that like to be in a city area, right? I want a big city feel. I want access to every kind of thing. Like I want beaches plus a city vibe. Plus I want you know, the type of restaurants I might want, the nightlife I might want, right? These kind of things. The easier answer for that, no matter what age you are, would be like, all right, yo, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Why? Your personality type, right? That would kind of fit everything if that was your personality. Now, if you're the type that says, all right, man, I'm whatever age and I want to travel right now, but I want to do it like I have access to what I need, but I want a more relaxed environment. I'll be like, well, Dominican Republic possibly gonna suit you more. Now, why would I say that? Even if you're in Santo Domingo, the capital of DR, obviously it's still going to be slower and less metropolitan, most parts of the DR in Santo Domingo than, let's say, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. See what I'm saying? See what I'm getting at? So some of these things also might change with time, who you are, not necessarily only a personality, right? And I'm going to say this one also about the personality types I've seen enjoy themselves in the DR versus Brazil. Now, take this as no offense, guys. But to me, DR, because it's so quote unquote Americanized in culture, even though they have their own culture, but the proximity to the US and a lot of tourism, right? The type of guys that more seem to fit into the DR, Dominican Republic, is two types, no matter where they go in the island, whether it's Santo Domingo, Puerto Plata, Punta Cana, the major areas, right? That tourists will usually go to. Puerto Plata, guys, includes like Sisu and all that. Just so you know, for the guys who haven't traveled or might be listening to this, not really aware. I tend to find that guys who into like hip hop, maybe t-shirts, the casual look, maybe even fitted caps on the younger side and into maybe even the 30s tend to kind of more vibe with DR. If you're like a sneakerhead and you're on the younger side or getting older, but you think you're still young, you'll fit right into the DR. If you want to wear your gold chains, your Jordans, you want to arrive to a country and be who you are back in the United States of America or Canada in a big city like Toronto and feel like you never really left, but you left, right? Like when people look at you, they're gonna just know you're a foreigner, maybe look at you for money, but you ain't gonna feel out of place because there's gonna be other people who dress just like you, right? Especially if you go to the nightclubs and all that. Or if you're in Punta Cana or if you're in Puerto Plata, Cabarete, Sosua, these areas in Puerto Plata where, you know, here and there, if you speak, people might know you're a foreigner, but if you don't, they might or might not think you're a tourist. Even if they think you're a tourist, you'd fit right in for the younger guys, right? That would definitely, to me, be more of a personality or that would fit in Dominican Republic versus, let's say, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Salvador Bahia, Brazil, and absolutely Sao Paulo, Brazil, right? Because the culture of Brazil, you would stand out like a sore thumb with a Jordan's t-shirt, gold chain, in any of those three cities in Brazil. So I'm gonna say if you that kind of younger guy in your 20s all the way up to 30s, and that's where you're on. Now, to say this, keep in mind there are older guys who still dress that way, who still kind of carry that vibe, right? So if you're a, I don't know, 50-year-old man doing the same thing, but guess what? You'll fit in DR better also. Now, let's say you're the guy who is used to be a NCO, a non-commissioned officer in the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, right? And you coming from the States, that is. If you're coming from Canada, the same thing. So wherever y'all version of the military is, or England, you know what I mean? I ain't know y'all military that much. So I ain't trying to think about it right now. But yeah, let's say, you got some experience under your belt. Maybe you've traveled due to the military, or maybe you just traveled in your own country and you never left stateside, right? You never went abroad, you never got deployed. Um, but you're a little bit more sophisticated. Nobody takes insults, but maybe because what life has shown you and your education level, either your officer level, NCO level, master sergeant, kind of higher ranks, E7, E8, that kind of thing. You might actually fit in more with like Brazil. And parts of Brazil you would probably fit in more would definitely be Rio de Janeiro and then also Sao Paulo, right? Now, why do I say this? With that type of level of life and experience and what you've seen, right? Which becomes important. What you've seen, guys, hit that thumbs up button for me. And who you've been around. You don't necessarily want to, deal with a young dude with the braids on the block, playing the loud music, a guy in a moto control speeding by, right? So Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and Sao Paulo will more give you a sophisticated big city vibe. Even if you got the beaches of Rio and you don't have any beaches in Salvador. You'll have restaurants. You'll have a mix of different people, different areas. You could just have a little bit more sophisticated travel. Now, that does not mean that that don't exist in the DR. Trust me. If you go to Santo Domingo, right, and you go to Naco, if you go, any of the really rich areas right there in Santo Domingo, and you can watch my old videos for these and these areas, but or just go on Airbnb.com, pull up Airbnbs, and let some prices go high in Santo Domingo and even in Santiago, right? And you're gonna see, rich areas of Santo Domingo. You got these high-end malls, you got Blue Mall, you got all these different things. Um, and you could still get that level of sophistication because of the types of restaurants, types of shopping. You could dress however you want, whether or not you're into the gold chains or not, or you're into, just a nice white pants with a nice crisp white shirt and a nice hat. You're keeping it old school or whatever, or just sophisticated in general, right? No t-shirts, these kind of things, nice shoes. Um, you're going to find that crowd in Santo Domingo in the rich areas. Now that could change very quickly as you go through the different parts of the city. And the advantage is you're going to have a beach. But if you're looking for it all and you that kind of guy, you're going to absolutely find that in Rio de Janeiro. If you're also looking for beaches, right? If you're just looking for the sophistication, I know a guy who don't even like sand, you don't like the beach. Sao Paulo would be that. Or a guy who's similar, you don't like the beach, he's more mature, um, but he's still looking for a nice vacation, sophistication, rich parts of Santo Domingo, rich parts of Santiago, right? So personality type is why we go on for where to go to these places. Um, I would even say Salvador Bahia, but Salvador's got a beach. Some people who, if your personality type, you're more into culture, right? Like you literally want to learn about these countries, whether you're younger or older. And if you're into black culture, you know about the history of Brazil, you know about the history of Salvador, you know about the history of Dominican Republic. You like zona colonial zone. You're not just going for the ladies. You actually want to walk around, read some plaques, 17 this, 18 that, right? That kind of traveler. Rio de Janeiro for a little bit of it, but absolutely Salvador, right? You go to Rio de Janeiro, you can do, the Chrysler Redeemer, all these different kind of tourist places. And you got history there too. But for that kind of traveler, Salvador, Zona Colonial. For the party crowd, all right, parties go like this, man. I would absolutely say to any younger guy who just into partying, do Dominican Republic. Um, it's really set up and designed for that. It's close by. It's gonna be cheaper than Brazil. And we don't get into that part about prices because that was part of the personality, if you want to call it that. I would say Dominican Republic, quick flight, lots of flights, cheaper flights, depending on where you're coming from in the States. But hell, same thing if you're flying to Brazil, right? So Brazil will be further, no matter where you are in the States. You got 5 hours or more flight, they're gonna be more expensive, no matter where you are. You could be in Miami, it'll still be expensive, right? More than flying to the DR, depending on the type of the year and all that. Um, everything considered normal. You know what I mean? If you like just a city environment, no beaches, you got a lot of money, you're a young guy, you want a different experience, you could do Salvador Bahia. If you don't like, I mean, sorry, Sao Paulo, right? Sao Paulo is like New York. If you're the type that thinking to yourself, like, man, a vacation for me would be like going to New York City, because that's a major city I've never been to, where I live in the United States, and I'm not into the DR thing. I don't speak Spanish, but I don't speak Portuguese either. And somebody remind me to go about the language also, right? Both of these countries you could go to if you don't speak Spanish or Portuguese. Let's just be real. Now, the cities you might want to go to might change. I want to say stick to tourist area. If you're a tourist, no matter what age, older or younger, you go into a country that don't speak English, stick to the tourist areas. That means if you don't go to the Dominican Republic and you don't speak English, you don't have to, but it would help you to enjoy yourself to just stick to Punta Cana. Um, beach cities that are offering like cruise lines like Puerto Plata, uh, you know, um, what's the name of this outer city, man? I had a video on it in the past. A lot of Europeans are out there. It's on the east coast of Dominican Republic. When it comes to Brazil, absolutely Rio de Janeiro, right? You want to stick to Copacabana area, all the basic, major destinations that carnival and tourists go to in Rio. You don't really want to do Sao Paulo, although I gotta say, you will encounter more people that speak English in Sao Paulo than I would actually say Rio de Janeiro. I know that sounds strange. However, Rio de Janeiro don't really have that tourism vibe though. So you could find yourself out there. And if you don't know how to move around where to be in Sao Paulo, you're not going to encounter people that speak English. Or unless you're a sophisticated guy and you're going into like high-end restaurants in the areas that the culture and knowing that stuff though takes a little bit of going to Brazil for most people. So you don't really want to be stuck out there. The other reason why too is that Sao Paulo happens to be one of the places. If you're going on vacation, a lot of the Airbnbs, pretty much every last one I saw out there, do not allow you to bring friends, guests, whatever you guys might want to call it, right? So that's going to limit your vacation time. You really got to get to know people that want to go to their house. Sao Paulo is known for being very dangerous. So this is why actually a lot of places don't allow any guests whatsoever. They don't even want to get into issues, right? So that plays a part in your personality. We're looking for who you are. Do you speak the language? Do you not speak the language? Have you traveled before? Do you know what you're doing? Or you just saw a couple of YouTube videos and you're like, yo, I want to go to that city because some guy was editing the videos really, really nicely and he look hype. Yeah, you're like, yeah, that's fun. Well, you're forgetting that that guy had been traveling for 5 years, 10 years, 9 years. His channel might have been out there 9 years now. But no, the party life look nice. He looks like he's having a good time. You understand? So that's one of the things I would say when it comes to that personality type, which city you go to. By the way, guys, I can more customize this for you based on talking to you directly on a consultation, right? So you can email me for that. I think somewhere here and there I got links for that also, like payhip.com/riches method media. Um, but I'm also doing an email version of that. Anyway, the point still remains though, right? Like I find that like Brazil and Rio attracts guys who just want to, they're the clean cut, more plain guys. They don't necessarily got to get the more fly sneakers, the throwbacks, caps, have to have the gold chains, these kind of things. More the college educated, master's degree, or even bachelor's 4 year degree, that's kind of thing, but more clean cut, even toned guys of whichever age tend to more fit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, right? And the reason for that is their culture. And this is not only a beach culture. You go to Sao Paulo, other than the business sense of the people will still have on a flip flops. You know what I mean? A short pants. And I don't mean like a jeans short pants, but more like a beach type vibe, right? And a shirt in the normal areas. Comfortably walk around with no problem. Even more so in Rio, right? It's not about your gold chain, which watch, these kind of things. Also because it's dangerous in these places, right? Make yourself a target. Sao Paulo, like I said, more of a city vibe. So jeans, or a nice short pants, nice shirt. Um, this is the kind of vibe that city gives. Now we go to Rio de Janeiro. Same thing. Nobody don't care what you have on, what brand, unless you're going into a high-end place and you need to dress that way. Nobody would even know you're a tourist in either of these cities, Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo or Salvador, actually. You'd fit right in. It don't matter what your skin color is in Brazil, you'll fit right in. There's no, oh, that person might be Haitian, right? Like in the Dominican Republic. Oh, I'm glad I kind of stumbled upon that. I didn't mean to bring that up, but it's something you got to be aware of if you're more of a darker tone brother and you're going to the Dominican Republic. You know, if you're in the tourist zone, they already know you're a tourist. You're in Punta Cana, you're in a hotel somewhere, fine. If you decide you're going to start exploring, you got to be, and you're not going to be in the tourist zone, you got to be aware that if you're in Dominican Republic and you're of the darker tone, because you look different also, unless you're physically like a foreigner, like you're way, way, way big. There are big guys in DR too, but you know what I mean. If people could readily tell you're an American or Canadian or a British person, you cool. But even the State Department years ago issued a warning about Black Americans who go into the Dominican Republic because of the issues between Haiti and Dominican Republic, and that you could be taken for a Haitian, right? And we all know since Trump came into office, even Luis Abinader, who's the president of Dominican Republic, he's been cracking down on immigration also within the Dominican Republic, and there's been some issues of people getting profiled who come from the United States of America who Dominicans thought were Haitians, right? So let's be aware it's out there. Now, when you go to the Brazil, Brazilians look like everybody. Nobody thinks, are you from here? Are you from there? Now, however, unfortunately, anywhere in the world, if you're a darker skinned person, people might think you have less money. So if you show up at a really, really high end place, just like in the United States, it's unfortunate to say that, you could potentially be taken as you don't really have money and what are you doing here, right? So, that kind of vibe can happen anywhere. Um, yeah, all right. So let's talk about specific countries and specific cities. Sao Paulo. I personally didn't like it that much, but once again, it's about personality, right? So some of these I'll also say as you branch out, try it for yourself because you never know if your personality might fit it, no matter what you see other people are doing and saying out there. So let me say, Salvador Bahia. Beaches there. It's a city, definitely. Big, tall skyscraper buildings, blah, 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 blah. But more of a quieter beach city vibe. Um, Nightlife is there in more inwards of the city and a few places on the beach area. Of course, if you go towards the beach area, it's more tourism and you got more boardwalk feel of little restaurants and live bands and people performing on the boardwalks and these things. That's Salvador, right? I would say that would be equal to Punta Cana. Punta Cana is a little bit more developed, but still touristy in the Dominican Republic and less developed than Salvador Bahia for sure. So once again, a little bit bigger city vibe, you might like Salvador. Punta Cana, not a real major city metropolitan vibe. Got a beach, developed enough. Coming to things that work and don't work, no matter what age you are, personality type. If you need crap to run on time, like you book an Airbnb, everything is working, you check in on the time that you schedule, the person they're bringing the key there on time. It is not Dominican Republic. It is not Dominican Republic. No matter what city you go to, if you need your AC to be running like it should, your person to show up on time, no major issues, or when there is, people taking care of it promptly and all these different things, it's gonna be Brazil. Brazil is just more developed, right? 90, I would say 80% of Brazil is more developed than the Dominican Republic. Um, Something to keep in mind that a lot of people don't. They just expect, okay, other countries ain't gonna be as developed, so electricity, same thing. I've never had a time when I was in Brazil, no matter which city I was in, where the electricity went out. I'm sure somewhere, some places in Brazil, the electricity goes out. Trust me. However, in those cities that I mentioned, electricity has never went out. I've never had an issue with the Airbnbs where, some craziness happened. Person show up 3 hours later, or I show up to check in, but person tell me that, they're in traffic and they're getting to me, and then they come 2 hours later, 3 hours later. It's happened to me a million times in the Dominican Republic. Enough so that I just knew their culture. I would just walk to the corner. But guys, I speak Spanish, so I would just walk to the corner and just get a presidente. Walk to a colmado, walk to the closest place with a beer, sit there and be like, well, I gotta let this go. They can show up wherever time. I know they're lying about the time, right? So keep those kind of things in mind, man. If you want a smooth, relaxing vacation, there's a potential some could go wrong with the DR, even in Punta Cana in a big hotel, than it would in Brazil, in Rio, or in Salvador, Bahia, or in Sao Paulo with no beaches, right? So two beaches, Brazil. You got a lot of beaches in Brazil, but I'm just saying for the major cities that it would just be easier for you to navigate as a tourist. We're gonna say Salvador Bahia, Rio de Janeiro number one, Salvador Bahia number two. They see a lot of tourism because of the promotion of the black culture and the first black people going to Brazil and how many black people were in Brazil. They're used to seeing tourists. Um, they even see a lot of Brazilian tourists. Same with Rio. Rio gets Brazilian tourists, Colombian tourists, Chilean, Argentinian. So Brazil is used to other tourists coming from South America also. Now, Dominican Republic used to tourists from all over the world. However, infrastructure-wise, problems, issues, people's mentality, you're going to encounter more problems in Dominican Republic. You're going to encounter more people trying to scam you in Dominican Republic, as in overcharging, telling you different prices, no real written prices. If you try to rent a car, you got to be careful. They're going to double, triple, quadruple the price on you. They're going to, try to tell you that you damaged something you didn't damage. You name it, you can find it in Dominican Republic. Unfortunately, uh, city vibe for Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, man. Not many people can end up in Santiago. There's no beaches there. There's an airport there, but typically because of where it's located within the city, the cheaper and more obvious flights usually going out to Punta Cana because of the beaches. The north coast of Puerto Plata because of the beaches. There's an airport directly there. And of course, Santo Domingo because you also have Boca Chica Beach in Santo Domingo. And, Santo Domingo is the epicenter of the capital. So obviously, you have flights. And that's your options when it comes to the DR. I would say personality. If you're an older guy, not in shape that much, you got some health issues, looking for a more relaxed vacation, I would say your personality type would most likely fit into Dominican Republic on the North Coast or Punta Cana or both, right? You're not too far from the US for your health problems. You're not really in shape like that. You're not going to be out there running around on the beach or, looking at a bunch of muscle up people like Rio de Janeiro. So now it comes back to the older guy who might be ex-military or just his whole life was living more in shape. He's more active. I would say Rio de Janeiro, man. Obviously, the people on the beaches, they're working out. You got the girls looking real nice out there working out. You got a little bit of both cultures. You could sit there and drink how much you want to, just like the Dominican Republic. But also, you got people really into health who don't even really drink or nothing. And you got access to both right there on the beach and even off the beach. 24-hour city. You're older gentleman that's active, whether you want to sit and do nothing one day or you want to do a lot of activities because you're physically capable of it and you don't have to worry as much about your health issues. You're further away from the US, and you're going there for 2 weeks on vacation or something like that. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Definitely real. Um, Younger guys, stick to DR more. You got all the options. You could do Punta Cana, then it's not as developed in the DR, so you could change it up if you needed to. You could fly over by suicide, which used to be packed with all the the debauchery. But the debauchery is there all throughout the island. You got to know how to find it. And even if you don't, it'll find you. Trust me. And you could party more. You're closer to the U.S. You could be different personality types. You could do nothing or do little activities enough to learn and be all right. The only thing you'll be missing is that big city vibe. So it'd be like going to Miami, right? Going to Miami without enough development if you're a younger guy. You have to choose between a New York and a Miami, and you're like, yeah, I would like Miami. I got the beaches there. I think there would be some girls at the clubs. Clubs got more of that, beach vibe. That's definitely Punta Cana area, Puerto Plata area on the North Coast. I'm just mentioning it because you guys only mostly know about it, Sasua, right? And then you got Santo Domingo for the guys who, more want a city kind of vibe. Maybe you still shoot over to the beach. They got Boca Chica, right? Um, you also got the colonial zone you could walk around, which is very touristy. And you still got upscale areas there. And obviously, it's the capital, so you got every types of debauchery going on. With time, you would less learn the major clubs, but for the most part, if it's your first time and you go to Santo Domingo, the capital in DR, you'd stick around with Zona Colonial is what it's called. And your Airbnb even gotta be there. You'd be using Ubers and all kind of stuff. In both countries, you got Uber. You good. The only time you don't have Uber, if you go into the Dominican Republic, it's like Sosua area, right? You're gonna need some kind of transportation if you're in Punta Cana, if you're not staying in a resort or Airbnb smack dab in the middle of everything. And that's a more relaxed vacation, Punta Cana, Puerto Plata, if you're a younger or older guy. And that's it, fellas. That's what I got for y'all today, man. I'm trying to not make these lives too long. I don't think I have any comments. And because I'm not trying to make the lives too long, I'm not really going to, answer any questions. Plus, I don't think that nobody got questions. So that's it for me on this one. You guys could either throw in the comments if you want me to do something more specific. If not, remember to hit me up. I'm okay with like an email consultation for you. And that consultation is like a whole month. What was I saying? 50? It's like $50 or something like that. I don't know. You could email me and just ask, hey, if I give you this much, because I might not think of all the questions at one time. Will you do this? And that's what I got for you, man. I figured I'd help you guys out based on personality types. Think of your travels that way. Do not think of your travels as like, yo, how is this country versus that one? Is that a better country? We all got different things we're looking for. So that becomes important. I think a lot of guys leave that out. All right, check you guys on the next one.